This is the Content Marketing Podcast, episode number 209, How to Start 2017 on the Right Foot. Hello and welcome to the Content Marketing Podcast. This is the show where we help you grow your tribe and your bottom line through insanely good content. I'm your host, Rachel Parker of Resonance Content Marketing, and today is January 12th, 2017. Hello, or as we say in Texas, howdy, and thank you for joining us for today's episode of the Content Marketing Podcast. Just a reminder, this podcast is available on iTunes, Stitcher, and now Google Play Music, so if you like what you hear, please feel free to click on over and subscribe. Also, my new book, The Content Marketing Coach, Everything You Need to Get in the Game and Win, is now available on Amazon in book and Kindle format. And here's what New York Times bestselling author Jeffrey Hazlett had to say about it. He said, read this book and find out how to make content a winner in any business. Rachel Parker is going to lead you to the Super Bowl of success, unquote. To learn more about the book and to download a free chapter, go to contentmarketingcoachbook.com. Before we get started, I want to give a shout out to my new friend Linda in Sydney, Australia. Linda was kind enough to tweet me last week and to tell me how much she enjoys this podcast. In fact, she even wrote a post on her blog about it where she gave us a very enthusiastic recommendation. And of course, I will share the link in the post for this episode. So Linda, welcome to our community. Thanks for reaching out and keep in touch if there's anything you want to hear about or any way I can make your podcast listening experience a little more pleasurable. Just let me know. That's my flight attendant voice. Okay. Last week we were delighted. Yes, I can speak today. Delighted to welcome Will Blunt of Blogger Sidekick, who had some sterling insights on how we can link our content marketing to our overall business goals. If you happen to miss that episode, feel free to check it out on iTunes or Stitcher or our many outposts or via the RSS feed. Today, we are marking the first full work week after the holidays with some tips on starting the new year off on the right foot. But first, it's time to check in with our news feed for this week's rundown of news you can use. Some news from Facebook. Kicking off today's news feed, Facebook has launched a free automatic video captioning tool to all U.S. English Facebook pages. This is a new tool that uses voice recognition software to translate your spoken words into on-screen text. And fortunately, we do have the ability to edit those captions as needed. Now, I got this from a story on TechCrunch, and they reported that their early test, now I have not used this myself, but I will shortly, their early test runs showed quite a few transcription errors. So until the technology improves, we might find ourselves doing quite a bit of editing. But of course, that has the advantage of when your video comes up in that silent autoplay mode on the Facebook feed, you will have some captions so that people can get an idea what your video is about, maybe generate some more interest. So here's how it works. When you upload a video, you will see a generate button in the video editor to instantly add subtitles. And I think there's a little magic wand icon there if memory serves. So what Facebook does when you click this button is it breaks down the subtitles snippet by snippet, allowing you to review the suggestion, play back that segment to hear it for yourself, and edit the captions for accuracy before saving them to the video. And again, that is from the TechCrunch blog post. Like I said, I've not tried this feature myself, but I will definitely check it out when I upload this coming Monday's video tips. So stay tuned, and I will provide a link to that TechCrunch article in the blog post for this episode. Okay, Vine. As we announced late last year, Vine will be shutting down its network and transitioning to the simpler Vine camera app. Well, we now have a date for that transition. That's going to be on this coming Tuesday, January 17th. And Vine is asking all users to download their content before that date because it is going to be going away. So if you have created Vines in the past that you want to save for other purposes, maybe you did some cool stop motion animation or something really cool that you want to keep, you definitely want to download that content before next Tuesday. And the instructions how to do that are available on the FAQ page on the Vine website. The general page is help.vine.co, and I will provide the full URL or the complete link in the blog post for this episode. As for Vine camera, I'm not seeing much discussion as to what that's going to look like. I've seen the phrase in connection with Vine shutting down, but I don't know what they have planned for Vine camera. So I guess we will have to sit tight until Tuesday to see what this new Vine app is going to be like. Okay, our content hit of the week is from one of my go-tos, one of my favorites, Neil Patel. He always creates wonderful content, and he has written a post on the Quick Sprout blog called "A Step-by-Step Guide to Producing a 3,000-Word Article on Any Topic." And I was really drawn to this post because we're in that space now, folks. One thing, this sea of content out there is just growing and growing and growing as more and more brands come on board, and most of it's crap. So one thing we need to do if we're going to rise above that fray in 2017 is to produce more robust, more in-depth content, just the type of content that Neil is talking about. Now, I'm not saying that longer equals better. Okay, there are many long articles out there on the web that are total poopy. Pardon my language. But it tends, if we're going to cover topics in depth and provide some really valuable insights, that tends to require more words, and we have to make the time and the space to create that longer form content. And this post by Neil delivers just what it promises, a step-by-step guide for creating that quality long form content. It is an excellent post, and I will provide the link in the blog post for this episode so you can check it out for yourself. Okay, that's it for this week's update. If you stumble across something you think might be of interest to your fellow content marketers, please tweet it to me at @RachParker so that we can share. Something I was going to mention in the intro that slipped my mind because it wasn't in the show notes, but if you would like to connect on Snapchat, I would love to connect with you. Back in November, I presented myself with the challenge of going to Snapchat at least once a day and doing either engaging someone else's content or following or posting my own content. And I've kind of gotten hooked on it. I still don't fully grasp how it fits in for marketers. And actually, Joe Polizzi recently revealed that he's kind of the same mind. I don't get it, but I know it's important. Anyway, if you would like to connect on Snapchat, my Snapchat ID is RachParkerTX. RachParkerTX, as in Rach Parker, Texas. So find me on Snapchat. Let's connect and let's share some snaps. Okay, now it's time for this week's Spotlight segments. We're going to share some tips on getting 2017 started on the right foot. Once again, I want to wish you a very happy 2017. I hope you have shaken off that holiday fog by now. For me, it took a while, and it's still kind of sinking in. Usually like January 3rd, January 4th, I am gung-ho, ready to go. Let's do this. Let's start this year off with a bang. And this year, I don't know if it was because Christmas and New Year's were on weekends or what the deal is, but I am just like, what do I do again? What is it that I do? What do clients hire me to do? What is this blog? What is this podcast? I don't know. No, kidding. But it's taken me a while, so I'm glad to be back, and I'm glad to welcome you back as well. So now that we have shaken off that holiday fog, I wanted to share a few tips for getting 2017 started on the right foot, because we did a lot of planning in those last 3 months of 2016 to really get that strategy shaped up. And now it's time to launch it, start executing, and start our journey towards achieving those goals that we've set for the year. So the first thing I recommend that you do is gather your team and hold a kickoff meeting. Now, I can hear the groans when I say that. Rachel, we spend all day in meetings. Do we really need another one? But I just believe that it's so important to get your team together at the start of the year and really kick this off with a bang. And you can make it fun. Make it fun, generate some excitement. Think about it this way. you spent the last few months of 2016 creating a product, and that product was your content marketing strategy. Well, now you're launching your product, and every product launch needs a kickoff party, right? So think about it that way. Get your team together, make it fun. And I think it's so important to get together in person. Yes, we all email and text and share comments on our various platforms, but to get together face to face, have a no phones policy. I think that's very important, and just celebrate the fact that, hey, our baby is launching. This product is ready to roll. One thing that you want to do is that by now you should have your final results from 2016. Those should be complete all the way through the 31st. So one thing you can do is look at those results for the entire year and talk about what you can learn from them. And maybe between the time you worked on your strategy and the end of the year, you noticed some trends or some occurrences that might require some tweaks to that strategy. So that's one thing that you want to do. And then another thing, this is your chance to review that strategy document as a group. And it might be the first time you've done that. I don't know. But review it as a group, button up any detail saying, okay, this is our battle plan. Are we missing anything to, grab our swords and charge? Are there any gaps that need to be filled? Maybe you put in some placeholders to figure out later because you couldn't figure them out right then and there. But make sure that everyone is on the same page. This is what we're going to do. This is who is responsible for what. This is when we're going to get all this done. And this is how we're going to do it. So how else can you use that kickoff meeting to start 2017 on the right foot? And I've got a couple of ideas for you. One idea is, now, if you've been following me for a while, you may know that I am no fan of New Year's resolutions. I think they just set us up for failure, and I haven't made resolutions in years. But one thing that I do at the start of every year is choose a word. One word to serve as my mantra that represents what I want to achieve or what I want to get to this year ahead. And I will share this year's word with you. Linda, I know I've been teasing you about this, but here it is. My word for 2017 is remarkable. And I chose this word very carefully because, as you've heard me talk about many times, more and more brands are jumping into this content marketing thing, which is great, which is wonderful, but this sea of content is just growing and growing and growing. And it's this sea of mostly medium to low quality content. It's, at its worst, it's just a string of keywords and, maybe some tips that someone borrowed from another website. At best, it might be, a listicle of 10 tips that you might find or the brand's audience might find mildly useful, but we're really not seeing that top level journalistic quality content that really makes people sit up and take notice. So for everything that I create this year, I'm going to look at it and say, is this remarkable? Not just good, not just excellent, not just, checks off all the marks. It's got keywords, it's got this, it's got that, it's socially shareable, but really remarkable. And if it's not remarkable, then I need to go back to the drawing board. So I'm really excited about my word, and I'm really excited to see what I'm able to create this year. So choose a word. Choose a word for this year. What you can do is you can choose a word for your team for 2017 that represents what you want to achieve. And you can encourage each team member to choose a word separately that represents his or her specific personal goals. So for example, your team word for the year might be elevate. It might be, okay, this is the year we go above and beyond what is expected of our content, and have that be your word for the year. But let's say your chief content writer might select something like heart, because she wants to, through the content she writes, she wants to connect with people on a more personal level and be more vulnerable, be more engaging, be more personal. So that might be her personal word. So that's an idea to do with your team, and it's kind of fun. You can post your word on, you post your team's word in a central place and have each person post their word in their cubicle or at their desk, and then trade. Hey, what do you? I got my word. What's your word? What's your word? And it's kind of fun. It's kind of fun, but it keeps you focused, and it's one word. It's not some 50-word manifesto that everybody has to remember. It is one word. So as you gather for your kickoff meeting, talk about selecting a word for the year and have your team brainstorm, come up with some great ideas. And that's going to help guide you as we start on our journey from January to December. Another thing you want to do is, I'll tell you what happens sometimes, is that these teams create these wonderful strategies and they say, we're going to do this, and they've got dates assigned for each initiative. And then that strategy gets filed away and those dates get filed away with it. And, when something's not on the calendar, it does not happen. Am I right? So this is your time to go through your strategy and make sure that every deadline makes its way onto your calendar, whether you use a project planning software, whether you use Asana or Basecamp or whatever it is that you use to keep track of your deliverables. Make sure that those dates wind up on that calendar, because what you don't want to have happen is to get to the end of a quarter or even worse, the end of the year and realize, oh, wow, we were going to launch a video series this year. Why didn't that happen? Well, didn't wind up on the calendar. So get those initiatives on your calendar and to make sure that they happen. Another thing I would put on your calendar right now is a monthly strategy review. So once a month, gather your team for no other purpose than looking at your strategy and saying, okay, where are we in achieving these big picture goals, to determine where you're on track, where you might need to play catch up if you're going to reach your goals for the year. And this is going to be a monthly meeting, or, it could be quarterly if your plan is a little simpler, as long as you're doing it regularly. But it's for nothing else. It's not to check in on specific projects or to, answer questions about, the website relaunch or whatever. It is to focus on your content marketing strategy and say, where are we right now? Are we where we need to be at this point in the year? If not, where do we need to catch up? And just to keep you on pace so that you don't get to a point where you need to catch up on 26 different things and it's completely impossible. So as you gather your team to really start 2017 on the right foot, remember to set up your calendar, get those dates, those deadlines, those projects on your master project calendar, and don't let them just live in that strategy document that you may not look at for a while. Okay, so that is my short and sweet list of tips for starting 2017 on the right foot. If you have any questions about this, or if you want to share your tips for starting strong this year, I would love to hear from you. And the best way to reach me is to tweet me at Rach Parker. Now it's time for our content marketing tip of the week. For this week's tip, I want to talk about priorities. I've seen so many companies, they get started with content marketing and they are just killing it. They're producing top quality content. They're consistent. They have a strong voice. They're building a strong brand for their content. And then something happens. Maybe it's a new product launch that has the whole team soaked for 6 weeks. Or maybe it's maybe the CEO decides he hates the website and wants to see a new one in 90 days. Maybe a team member left, or you had another shakeup in personnel and it took a couple of months to recover. But for whatever reason, that brand's content marketing falls to the wayside. It just gets shoved down that priority list, and 6 months later, they find themselves having to start all over again. And folks, I get it. We are busy. In that in the latest B2B content marketing report released by the Content Marketing Institute, it came out that most businesses' content marketing is run by very, very small teams. And these are teams who are also responsible for brochures and the website and day-to-day social media interaction. I mean, we're all busy. We've got a lot on our plates, but we all have the same 24 hours, and it's up to us to prioritize them. And if we don't make content marketing a priority, it's going to get shoved further and further down the list as those more urgent matters come up. So, as you gather with your team to kick off, discuss, and this is not always a fun topic, but what's your contingency plan? What does happen if the team gets soaked on a project for 6 weeks? What's going to happen? What if someone leaves? What are we going to do? Are we going to bring in freelancers? Are we going to, maybe borrow someone from another department like PR or something like that? What are we going to do if our priority lists get really, really crowded? But it's important to have that conversation because you don't want to be, you don't want to be flat on your back when stuff like that does happen, wondering, okay, what we're going to do. Because content marketing, as we all know, it's all about consistency. We've got to be consistent in what we do, and it can't be a stop and start thing. So, and, I don't make the rules. I get that we're all busy, but if we're going to reap the results of content marketing, we've got to be consistent. So gather your team, think about those contingency plans, because if you are united in the cause of making content marketing a priority, you'll be ready for anything that gets thrown at you between now and December. Okay, campers, that is it for me today. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Content Marketing Podcast. If you like what you've heard, please feel free to subscribe on iTunes or Stitcher or Google Play Music or via our RSS feed. And if you really like what you've heard, please leave us a quick review on iTunes. And I want to thank everyone who has reviewed us already. Just really means the world to me. Also, remember that my new book, The Content Marketing Coach, Everything You Need to Get in the Game and Win, is now available in book and Kindle format. To learn more about the book and to download a free chapter, visit contentmarketingcoachbook.com. As you know, I always like to leave you with a quote, and today's comes from Henry David Thoreau. He once said, quote, "Success usually comes to those who are too busy to be looking for it." Unquote. Again, this is Rachel Parker with Resonance Content Marketing. Thank you again for listening, and we will see you again next week. Take care.